So big hello and good afternoon to everyone in the virtual world. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Sangeeta Singh, and yes, on behalf of AsiaOne Magazine, friends, we are delighted to welcome all of you to WebTalks Series 2, How Symbols and Brands Shape Out Our Humanity. Friends, I'm sure all of you know, and I'm going to reiterate again for everybody out there, WebTalks, a weekly webinar knowledge series. It's a thought-provoking platform for ideation from across the continent. It brings together some brilliant minds of Asia, GCC, and of course, other countries. Friends, it's actually gets leaders across diverse domains to evolve unique and innovative ideas that have the potential to soar the spirit of economy and business. And just to let you know that WebTalks is an amazing series curated by AsiaOne Magazine and URS International Media. Just for your knowledge, URS is an international media house and the only business and news magazine to have a pan-Asia presence. So I hope you're all set to get started to explore the very wisely chosen topic, how symbols and brands, actually shape out our humanity. And let me tell you, we have an illustrious panel. But before I bring them all here on board, I must say, branding is a profound manifestation of human spirit. From that power of symbols to uniting people, to the modern day where companies have adopted logos and trademarks to market their services, their products, branding has actually come a long way. Rather, to be precise, branding has really gone a great transformation in the last 11 years. So let's get set to explore it all. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you to our wonderful panel here with us. How I wish I could actually see all of you putting your hands together, but theek hai, social distancing hai, to follow karte hain. Friends, today we have here with us Mr. Rajat Shukal, Global Head and Principal Partner, AsiaOne Magazine. I just want everybody to put their hands together. Okay. So, sir, I hope you're doing wonderful. How are you doing today with us?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. Good to connect with the speakers and the audience. Very nice. Thank you.
We also have here with us engineer Mehedi Hasan from Bangladesh. Just to let you know that he's a group chairman and CEO, Omnicon Group. So, a very warm welcome to you, sir. It was great listening to you the last time, and as a few questions, and it's amazing to now have you as a part of this great panel and this great series. With that, we also have all the way from Hyderabad, Mr. Ravishankar Polishetty. He is the managing director, Sai Ganga Panakeia. A very warm welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you guys?
Wonderful, and I just can't wait for this wonderful started. Of course, we have more speakers. Just to let you know, we'll have Dr. who will be joining the panel in a while from now. We also have the very gorgeous Ms. Naila Arabia from UAE, friends, and she too will be joining on this session. But for now, let me start by bringing on Shukal on board. And sir, who better than you to open this great series for all of us? I would hear your thoughts before I put forth my question to you.
Sorry, Sangeeta, can you repeat that part? Sorry.
Well, I said, sir, I would want you to launch this wonderful series for us. We are in series 2. It's a great knowledge platform. And your thoughts before I put forth my question to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. Dr. Ravishankar, welcome. Mehedi Hasan ji, welcome. And all the audience which is watching on the virtual world. It's a pleasure to host these web talks, and the entire focus is that during these times we can actually reach out to our readers, though AsiaOne is a print media product and digital as well, but we wanted to have this experience sharing during these times, and all of us could share the challenges and the opportunities that we are facing. And today's topic is very interesting, where brands and symbols are extremely significant, and I think historically they began from when caste and cultures and religions were formed, and today we use them as a corporate tool as well. And I also feel personally that they're important in a world where there is differentiation required. And I think today's topic is very interesting, and we'll have very diverse speakers joining also. Dr. Niranjan Hirannandani, Dr. Mukesh Batra, and Naila Al Khaja. They're all known to all of us, and they should be joining us soon. I welcome all of you on their behalf as well. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this wonderful topic that we've chosen. My question to you is, because as you rightly said, from brand has really transformed itself. In the last 11 years, the internet messages, it has played a very, very vast role. So how do you think, the role of social media or the media companies, for a matter of fact, like yours, play a great role in disseminating the right information and helping the society at large?
Okay. Thank you, Sangeeta. Media, we all know, is a very strong tool, and especially in these difficult times, we can even see it more. Where definitely it's been one form of information, and though I would say it was a very, very earlier form of media where it was only information. Today it's more of visual, audio, text, and so many images that can be actually formed together to give out information. And let me also tell you that this transformation is very unique, where today media has also gone out of hands, if I may say that, where there is so much, there are so many competitors, so many players in the market. There are so many platforms that we get information from. In certain times it was only print or radio or television. So these are times where it's very interesting, it's very competitive, and honestly I would talk more about an Asia perspective. So for example, a news like between the UAE and Singapore, there are about 7,000-8,000 COVID-19 cases.
Right.
And this is the information being given out. I believe India has about 18,000 plus cases.
Right. Yes.
But if you see, both Singapore and the UAE have about a population which is 6-7 million. 8,000 cases divided by 6-7 million as a population, the percentages are very high. But when you see India, where it's 18,000, the 130 billion population, things are very, very controlled. And I'm happy to say that the reason it's happening is not only because of the leadership, but also because of this humongous history of having the right medical practitioners, having a focus on, I would also say, a belief in medicine. I would say that, because when I see America, I'm surprised that the numbers are so ever increasing. But I must say that all this is also because of a reason that consciously, and managing a population of 130 billion is very different, which is very diverse, spread across different cultures.
Demography, basically.
Correct. And I'm actually happy, though I'm a media person myself, but I'm always a critic as well. But I'm actually happy the way media has given out information, the way we are reaching out to general public, and honestly, media is more perception driven. It has to be about what the person who's watching it in whatever format is understanding. So that's important as well. And I think it's very interesting. It's we are all in a lockdown kind of situation almost anywhere in the world, but we're all connected to the real world.
Social media, that we are still connected.
Yeah, we're all connected with social, with television, with print, with radio, and we're all connected and we're all well aware. So it's very interesting. And and I must say that these are times which are temporary. Honestly, we're all going to get outfit, and hopefully it happens soon. Thank you, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Mr. Shukal. And with that, let me bring on, Mehedi Hasan sir. Sir, how are you doing?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, sir. How are you doing? And how does it feel to be here on the panel? I mean, I did hear a couple of very interesting questions from you in the last series that we conducted. How does it feel to be now here as a panelist with us?
Yeah, it's good. Of course, it's good to be back as a panelist. But and I was just sharing this web talk from Facebook, and I believe all of my people who are joining also enjoying the web talks. And it's very important one. I hope everybody will enjoy it, and as well as
I would say a big hello to everybody out there in Bangladesh, on behalf of Mehedi Hasan sir here. So, I am very well aware that certain parts of your business, like publishing, it really must have kind of taken a little bit of a hit, maybe a temporary hit in these days. So, how are you keeping your stakeholders motivated as a team?
Okay, as all of the panelists here, I think they got the introduction about the Omnicon Group that we lead in Bangladesh as a publisher, and it's the largest publishing house with more than 6,000 titles, and a partnership with a lot of international brands like Pearson and Cambridge Works Press, a lot of top 10 brands all we represent here in Bangladesh. And of course, from this point of hard earned privilege, we choose to respond to the situation by reassessing our general and especially media resources. We also have a lot of media engagements, and we are creating a multi-pronged communication strategy with our team. And we are talking to all of our stakeholders, and not just our customers or the consumers. We also have other businesses as well, like IT, and we are spreading over like 8 sectors. But publishing is one of the biggest. Like, we impact the lives of at least 25 million students here, as we publish all the academic books, So our customer at large are students and teachers who are not going to be the forefront of the business battle against this pandemic, but we are we can say that they are the most important groups in nation building. Thankfully, this group is also very active in social media, and they are literate, they are engaged, and they are all-time accessible, as we think they are connected to our Facebook pages and all other social media, Twitter and everything. So, as you asked me that how we did the communication with them on what strategy did we do, right?
Right. So, how are you really, I'm sure there's a lot of panic out there in business owners. So how are you really keeping your stakeholders that calm, that this is just a little bit of a, storm and it will pass away?
Yeah, we actually parted in 3 parts, like 3 type of stakeholders. I will say that external, those who are customers group and students and teachers and our consumers in other businesses.
Right.
So we are doing we have 8 brands, and we are doing, from all the brands, we are doing awareness building, preventive methods, and reiterating government directives for social distancing. And we can say tips on the spending lockdown productively, because this lockdown, to know and understand this lockdown situation is very important. And directing towards our online contents. We are making online contents on regular basis. We are sharing those contents, and we support our communities through a lot of humanitarian works, like donation, and through our foundation. Like there are two or three companies as well. They are foundation actually, so they are doing this, and we are also partnered with them, like Mission Save Bangladesh. And number 7, we can say that creating online communities to engage with. So we are creating our customers communities, and online presence is very good. And we are also telling them to communicate with their families. And we can say that for the second part, our internal customers, we say our distributors, schools, libraries, associations, bookshops, suppliers, logistics, and outsourced vendors. And there are some consultants and think tanks as well from government and other. So we are doing like extra awareness building with them and engaging them in different social media talk from our pages, and also checking with them on one-on-one basis if they are okay and if they're doing good, and involving them in formulating recovery strategy and coordinating and planning social responsibility program as well. And finally, the organization family, that we say that our own business. So our own business under our umbrella, all the offices, staffs, sales teams, and across the country, our factory staffs and our corporate officers, they are engaged in preventive methods, and they have work from home policy that we adopted recently very well. And we have done it through providing them extra equipments, tools that they need to engage in the internet. Before it was like 30%, and I would say we were trying very hardly to cope up with this digital age. But now I think all of them are aware of how to use the digital technologies, and they just got it learned by last 3 or 4 weeks ago. So when the lockdown started, we just did that, and they became.
You were more proactive, and you made it a point that you will put this particular platform that is available to you at its best, right? So I can understand that, and I think that really keeps the stakeholders' entire interest also pretty much intact, because we're not taking a back seat, but we are playing on the front foot. We are trying to, whatever is available to us, whichever kind of engagement, whichever medium is available to us, we are, utilizing it to the fullest. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And with that, I'm going to bring on Dr. Ravishankar Polishetty. Thank you so much, sir. How's everything back in Hyderabad?
Going on, we're all on the same boat. So it's...
So I believe Telangana has extended its lockdown till about 7th
till the 7th of May. Yes, we have some difficult, little more difficult situation than that was anticipated. So it's extended a little more.
But I think doctors have, emerged as a big army, big saviors out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of awareness that needs to be brought in. Yes, doctors are on the front line right now. We all are on the front line, but of course, so are the police guys, and of course, the leadership that we have at the center is amazing, and also decentralized at the states. We have excellent leadership everywhere. I think we're doing a good job as of yet, but there's still a lot of work to go, to do, and yeah, it's war. I feel there's going to be a long-blown war. I mean, it's going to take a little
even
more
after
time.
After the lockdown.
Lockdown, yeah, it's not going to.
Major.
No, this lockdown period is actually going to bring in some discipline that we might have to continue after the lockdown. So
I think it's more important to follow after the lockdown.
Absolutely, yeah. The lockdown is actually bringing in some retrospection, so that we kind of contemplate on what we did earlier.
Right.
And we see and how beautifully nature is curing herself.
Right.
Mother Nature is curing herself. So that's some beautiful phenomenon which we are witnessing right now. 50,000 crores was literally spent on of Indian rupees was spent on cleaning Mother Ganga, but 3 weeks of not meddling with the nature has completely cleaned it up.
Look at the water of Yamuna. It looks blue and beautiful.
That's what I'm saying. See, it's like, 3 weeks of humans not meddling with nature has cleansed the nature.
Absolutely. And I think doctors have emerged as a bigger brand than anybody else.
It is. It's always been like that, actually, see, there's so much of knowledge that is out there, and medical knowledge I'm speaking. It's only the doctors who will be able to know which is the right knowledge and which is the wrong knowledge. So unfortunately, in a lot of a campaign against the doctors went wrong for some time, but then now, it is time that, people are realizing that yes, it's the doctors again all the while.
Absolutely.
We're coming, to save lives, and I'm happy to be a part of this fraternity. And thank you very much for calling me in. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Dr. Polishetty, to have you on board. So, well, my question to you is, AL and ML is actually transforming the whole economies these days and has a special role in the healthcare industry.
Absolutely.
There has been a big debate about dearth of PPEs for medical staff and the unavailability of required number of testing kits during the current scare.
Correct,
how can your company and others in the league actually take a more innovative approach and develop tech that can avoid such situations in the future?
Yeah, big question, but let me try to, fit in give my thoughts and the peace of mind. See, our company is actually bringing in the best of Western and Eastern systems of medicine to improve clinical outcomes. That's what we do, pretty much. Last 18 years, I spent my time, putting in more than 100 man years of research in correlating the ancient science with the current science. No, why we did this is because the modern science, as it is modern, certainly there's no doubt about it, but then there are so many things that still need to be addressed. So to fill in that gap, especially in chronic care, we don't have improved quality of life or improved clinical outcomes. There are certain diseases that 85% of diseases we don't know how to cure them. Actually, we just maintain patients on a long-term medication. That's all we do right now. So to fill in this gap, I was just wondering, I'd been like my penchant for reading our scriptures had been very deep right from my childhood, because I studied in a certain school which taught us these ancient scriptures. So I was just seeing if this ancient wisdom of India and the entire Southeast Asia could bring in any value addition. And I really found it really interesting. See, today the problem, I'll just have to make a quick detour, a 2-minute detour into what we have been doing. And then I'll show you how AI we have applied to innovate, to come up with something really new in these times of, necessitated innovation. It's forced innovation. So what we did was, see, if you go to a doctor, for example, if you go to a doctor, he does your blood workup, and then gives you the blood glucose is 140. Some people with blood glucose of 140 fasting feel excellently well, and some people with blood glucose of 140 feel very weird. The parameter of blood glucose cannot be standardized or cannot be correlated to the feeling of well-being in each individual. So to understand this, I started researching into our Ayurveda, and then what I found was really interesting. The ancient science doesn't talk about numbers pretty much. It talks about ratios. They said that what this ancient science has taught me, I'd been reading these things in original Sanskrit scriptures. What Ayurveda says is there's something called Samadoshaha, Sama-Agnishcha, Sama-Dhatu Malakriya, Prasannatma Manasendriyanam Swastya Abhijete. This is a Sanskrit verse, but what it means is the body has capability to completely regenerate and completely maintain its state of health only when a certain condition is met with. And they talk about something called balance or homeostasis that we call in the modern science. When the homeostasis, according to Ayurveda, is a balance of certain 3 agents called as the Vata, Pitta and Kapha. If you maintain these 3 things in a balance, then you end up with, the body cures its own self. The body sets itself into a self-healing mode and cures itself. That is what this ancient science talks. So we did a lot of research in correlating this ancient science of Vata, Pitta, Kapha into the language of modern science. That's been our research majorly. So through this, what we found was that just like, your absolute glucose number doesn't give anything, literally, or your absolute cholesterol, the value of cholesterol in blood doesn't give anything to a doctor, to a patient or a doctor. The ratios of high density versus low density has to be in a certain range. That is what we need to identify. And that's what the ancient science is talking about. It's talking about 3 agents called the Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and if they are in equal proportion, then the body cures itself. So by applying this knowledge and correlating that in experimental animal models, and then creating models of Vata, Pitta, Kapha in experimental animals, and then measuring those parameters of homeostasis, we have come up with a complete unique way of how whether an individual is in a state of homeostasis or not is completely established by us in the last 18 years. So several patents have been filed, several publications have been done. So how does this now fit into the current system? See, if you talk about, we'll talk about the PPEs and other stuff that was not really sufficient for us, the diagnostic kits. But what this knowledge helped me and helps us is that, so you see, you have several viruses. There are about 2 million bacteria and viruses.
It's about how you build that immunity towards
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So you cannot go on developing vaccines I'm not saying it's wrong, but to protect yourself, say for example, from 90,000 viruses that are right now available, we just have 9 vaccines, that's all.
Right.
We don't have vaccines against all the viruses. So how is the body then maintaining this homeostasis, this balance? Is by having a strong immune system. And what is a strong immune system is what I figured out. A strong immune system doesn't have a certain parameter. It's a balance. When you have these 3 agents called the Vata, Pitta and Kapha in equal proportion in the immune system, then the immune system is stronger. It's not that, you just take ginger and your immune system becomes stronger. No, that is right in an individual who has excess Kapha. But an individual who has vitiated Pitta, ginger might not help, turmeric will help.
Right. Yes.
So this type of mapping, what helps build a strong immune system in a specific individual, is what I have figured out. So that's what our company brings in. And this, and just today my capstone project went live. I have gained a master's in data science today, so I'm a programmer too, apart from being a cardiac surgeon. And
congratulations to that.
This capstone project went live. So what I'm trying to say is, by quantifying Vata, Pitta, Kapha and connecting them to the parameters of modern science, I was able to come up with a new data science model based on which at any particular point of time, we could actually say if a person is in a balance or if his immune system is strong or weak. Or there are 3 states of an immune system. Either it could be hyperreactive or hyporeactive or spontaneously reactive. So if you...
Since you're saying this, when you do these kind of innovations, where do you think your brand and what is the power of a particular brand to really go out and disseminate and bring it to the last mile people, and how important then the brand becomes?
Yeah, see, why I'm saying is this, you have asked the right question. So why the media houses, the job becomes much more complicated in these times of lockdown and necessitated and or forced innovation is that in today's lockdown times, those companies or those hospitals which don't adapt to this new AI and ML based technologies will slowly see weaning off, will slowly perish, I feel, just like Ola. Ola, without owning a single car, is the largest rental car company. Oyo, which doesn't have a single penny invested in infrastructure, is the largest hotel, selling company. So similarly, in today's world of this necessitated, this lockdown, which has forced us to think new, even hospitals will have to innovate by powering it with AI and ML. And it's through your brand that you will be able to communicate it to people. Yes, we have changed, we have adapted. The sooner you adapt to this new situation and the sooner you communicate this to people through brands, you will be able to essentially get this message across, and then show how disruption could actually occur in times of these lockdowns. So the brand definitely all the more becomes very, very important. And then the symbol that Rajat Shukal was actually talking about, symbol of whatever religion or anything. So we have a symbol, and if you look at our logo, we have two incomplete circles connected, which means ancient science is incomplete and allopathy is also incomplete. But we bring both, best of the both, powered by technologies. There's a certain circuit running between these two circles in our logo, with which we communicate to people that it's through the power of AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, that we bring the best of the both worlds, and sitting at the comfort of your home. I don't even have to go to my clinic today. We communicate, we remotely monitor our patients, accurately monitor whether they are, whether the disease is going to start in them, or whether they are in any prodromal condition, through our apps. We are just releasing the app very soon. So this is what has to be communicated.
Yet another step towards the digital era, really making the best out of it. And
absolutely, yeah. Because 2 years ago when I invented this device, I thought, this digital doctor assistant that I invented will go live only after 5 to 7 years. Though, Eric Topol, one of the, famous cardiologists and geneticists, he felt that, it will take at least 20 years for a digital doctor to come in. But now I see the digital doctor assistant that I invented 2 years ago can go live now. And then this is the necessity of the hour. And we already have the technology right in front of you. So this is why,
Thank you, Dr. Polishetty. Thank you for all those endeavors, the great efforts that you are taking, and a great togetherness. And I guess when you spoke about your symbol, about the two circles, it itself describes the power of a symbol and how well thought it is to put forth your belief system.
And it took us 3 years for us to arrive at that logo. We took a lot of time to
Yeah, with a message like that, I'm sure it takes a lot of back and forth and a lot of. Let me once again bring in Rajat sir. Sir, I can see all smiles on your face, and I'm sure you so much agree with what Dr. Polishetty has been telling us about the Kapha, Vata, Pitta, the constituents, how modern medicine and the ancient medicine really blend together to give a more healthier body and mind.
Yes, Dr. Ravishankar, thank you so much. Privileged to listen to you. And, I'm also happy that a doctor is talking, like a Mark Zuckerberg when you talk about technology. That's important. And honestly, technology is the future. We are all connected right now on a platform which is again technology based. And there is so much, that can happen on this. And I think this particular integration, what you talked about, is the need of the hour, where multiple industries need to understand this. And convergence. I've been saying this for some time. Convergence is extremely important, and the foundation is going to be technology for sure. And I also had a question with Mehedi Hasan ji.
Yes.
Before I ask my question, Dr. Ravishankar, Mehedi Hasan ji, Bangladesh has been one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. I say it with a lot of, ratios and research behind it, because, we have been writing about Bangladesh, and we understand that even ahead of China and India, Bangladesh has been one of the fastest growing GDPs in Asia. And I personally, as a media professional, give a lot of credit to Sheikh Hasina and the leadership that she has. Where again she's been a visionary, and I have interacted, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years with a lot of Bangladesh businessmen who speak very highly about her. And I would request if you could tell us more about the strategies or the changes she's brought in, where Bangladesh is growing so fast and creating an example, and now moving from the tag of a developing economy to hopefully a developed nation. Though
Yeah.
these terminologies are very relative, but we all see a lot of change just in the last 5 years in Bangladesh as a country. And if you will let our viewers also know on a macro level how you feel this has happened and how business entrepreneurs and the leadership has contributed to the same.
Thanks for your question, Mr. Rajat. And I'd like to reveal the things from my view, from my perspective, that how our leader Sheikh Hasina has moved this country so fast to what we are today. So since the recent situation has put us all thinking about how we live our lives, right? And the digital transformation puts a very significant role in this matter. And have you heard about, I hope you have heard about the Digital Bangladesh campaign, right? So 2009, our leader Sheikh Hasina, she introduced actually the Digital Bangladesh, this concept. And this concept came from our IT advisor, Mr. Sajib Wajed Joy. And he worked very hard behind this concept. And we targeted 2021, that means the next year, to be the fully digital Bangladesh. And most of the big conferences, our Prime Minister now mostly does in the online opening, online inauguration everywhere. And this is a very small country, but the country is thriving very best, and we are named like a four upcoming tiger, like Taiwan, South Korea. Bangladesh is listed there. And how we came here, because of our activities so organized, and last couple of years we did introduce like a metro rail that was very much required, and so much infrastructure like that, like Padma Bridge, and that is connecting the South Bengal to the city. And the last 45 years we did not decentralize the country. So now she's doing the 100 economic zone in different places, which will be actually decentralizing the whole economy throughout the nation, throughout different parts and cities. So these are one of the many things that she has done. And if you look at this, the management of, I would say that 2021 was our target, but I think for pandemic situation, as we were almost to be the digital, fully digital in Bangladesh, everything is online, accessible, everything is there. We did the digital voter ID and everything. Now the mobile financial system, and I'm also engaged in one as a director in Nagad. That is going to be probably the next year the national wallet for digital money transfer. And Nagad is actually the service of our postal system. So she also encouraged us to do that, and she's very updated about how the world is evolving, and she's taking initiatives and steps on our own. And last couple of years we have increased our budget every year. Like last 10 years before, our budget was very small. Now the budget is very big. Our taxation system is well defined, well implemented, and lot of people are engaged in digital tax system, digital banking. So this pandemic actually, if it was happen, if I say that it could happen in 2008, it would have been much bigger problem. But in 2020, we are not in that much problem. Most of our companies can cope up with the situation, and the changed system. We could use our digital technologies. We could use our high speed internet, and the internet is available everywhere in Bangladesh. Like I know that in the bigger countries, it is very much challenging to put everyone under the 4G or 5G. it is very important to put everyone in the mobile internet system, but in Bangladesh, it is implemented like 5 or 6 years back. And look at my organization, how it evolved. Like we introduced the digital class system in last month. So all the higher school candidates, higher school examination candidates, they can enter into digital classes. Our government also take the same initiative, has taken the same initiative to Bangladesh TV. So every day there are more classes going on in the TV. So from anywhere, from rural area, being in home, the students can enter the digital classes and they can learn whatever they want and as per the syllabus. Still, we are not planning to stop the academic year yet. So being in education, one of the notable business person in education business, so we have to thank our government that still we are trying to keep these things continuing, all the people teaching all the students in this lockdown situation. Otherwise, it would be very hard to pass the time, because if students have only hobbies or their academic readouts, so they can pass their time. So this helps a lot. And the economy, actually, it was very much depending on the availability of the communication throughout the countries, and the government has successfully established it. And recently, the pandemic situation, when it started in March 17, she has done a great job. Our Prime Minister has, we already celebrated the 100th anniversary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, father of the nation. And just before that, she took it so seriously that before that, she was about to send a letter to the students, and she stopped that immediately for the pandemic situation to handle the crisis. And see where we are now. Like we are at the from the first lockdown there, maybe it's going more than 1 month today. It's more than 1 month. It's like 34 days. We are in lockdown, but we did it step by step. I still think like we did it very well. We are 18 crore people here, so it's not easy to lock down everyone. And every day in some places of the cities, in some cities, there are some kind of gatherings, which is really inevitable. Because people are going to bazaar. We don't have the social security system implemented like the first world. So everybody has to be on their own. People run through the SMEs and a lot of businesses. And there are also day-to-day people, those who are actually, who has to go to the work every day to have their next day, the foods and the basic necessities. So if our government lock this down like India, so what would happen? Like, I think there would be a chaos. So we did it like a stage. 1 week very soft, second week is a little bit harder, now more harder. So people actually understood how to cope up with the lockdown, because we know that proper lockdown we need 21 days at least, and now some people says it needed like 45 days. And so many people are doing sharing so many things, rumors, and also government also handled this very efficiently. Just 2 weeks back, government has implemented a law for this pandemic situation. If somebody just suggests something and it goes viral in digital media or social media, so how government will handle this? Government has implemented and put the law enforcement very active on this. And government has also given the incentive of 75,000 crore Bangladeshi taka, which is like $9 billion. So $9 billion she already declared in for the different communities of business people, like the exporters. And still, this is just started. Some businesses started applying for the loans, and it is very low interest loan. And I think this will help the business people to revive and to avoid an inevitable layoffs of the company. And like we are thinking still now from my company, we are thinking to cope up with the situation. Like we are targeting 4 or 5 months to come back to the business, if it is the best scenario cases. If it is the worst scenario, it will be taking long, like end of this year. But we all know that this virus is so much sensitive that it's very unlikely to go away, like it will be vanished. No, within 3 months or 4 months, I don't see that it will not be vanished. It will be there. So we have to actually continue the implementing social distancing. We have to continue the hygiene I think it should be for the lifetime. People already know what is hygiene situation. People don't in Bangladesh and India and other third world countries, as you know, that the slums, and everywhere there are like slums. We have all our mates and everyone living beside our every communities. So these are really it was kind of unhealthy situation, and now it is very positive. I'm very positive that everybody is learning how to be practicing the hygiene in their daily practices. And digital, what I told before, like beside the health issues and the digital communication strategies that government has taken, as we are almost like we are in lockdown situation, but we still did not feel anything. Like our power system is going very nice. Like before it was there are a lot of load sharings in Bangladesh. Last 7-8 years we are really experiencing very good stable power. There is no power crisis, so a very good stable situation on this, and the internet is always there. So in a country like Bangladesh, it is, I would say, this really big development, like the infrastructure, road transportation system, the power, internet, and the digital communication strategy, and backing by the government policies, and the such a crisis situation to handle the that the supply chain, whole supply chain has drastically changes, because people went to the market and bought everything in 2 weeks. But there are like scarcity of the goods everywhere in the world, not even in Australia and USA, UK, everywhere, Tesco's and everything was going out of stock. And in Bangladesh, it did not happen because we are not dependent on mainly imports. We have our basic needs that is produced in Bangladesh, and some of the luxuries and maybe imported from different kind of the luxuries like AC, refrigerator. Now we have the production facility in Bangladesh. Before we would like to import all these things. So beside everything, I can say that government's initiative last 4 or 5 years was very quick initiative and very effective initiative, very effective strategies that has been implemented throughout our country, and that's why we are comparatively in very good situation in pandemic. But after all, if we say this is, if you look at USA, UK, and the first world countries like Italy, USA, German, Europe, whole Europe, they cannot also contain. Like Singapore, I was very much confident that Singapore can contain it. Singapore will contain it. But last couple of days, it's also spiked out there. So you see, it's not easy to contain the virus. It's very tough. It's very, very tough. So after 45 days or 50 days lockdown, if you even go out and there are also 5 patients or 1 patient is still out there who is not identified, so it can be risk. So every time Dr. Fauci and everyone in the WHO, they are saying that we need only one thing, that is test. And you see how government is taking initiative. I would like to thank my government that at the very first stage, people was trying to bring the test kits, a lot of test kits, and trying to supply the government. It's a very my personal. I would like to mention this thing. Like the Prime Minister did not allow everyone to bring the test kits. Now we are going with the proper test kit, because if the test kits give the negative, false positive, then it is problem. False negative, it is. So we cannot take more than 3 or 4%. Like it has to be 95% accurate. So the test kits should be approved by the government or approved by the FDA. Even the FDA is very much busy nowadays regarding the vaccines, test kits, and a lot of other things that is necessary in this to fight this pandemic. And I think government is going to the right directions, but we are very big country in terms of population. So I would not say that this will be easy for any kind of government to maintain this kind of situation or protection when you have 18 crore people in a 55,000 square mile area. And we are living like in Dhaka city, there are like in every square mile, there are like 22,000 people. It is mad situation. So still we are going through less deaths, but we are trying to protect more, we are trying to prevent more than more than encouraging people to go to the doctors, because there are really less ventilators everywhere in USA, UK, everywhere you see. There are more peoples, but there are less ventilators, like it's like 5% or 2% or 1% that we may need. So it is very crazy situation for everyone, but we can of course fight this through being in home and being updated in digital technologies like we're doing, and now meeting all through the Zoom, Google Meet and everything we are using. So we can stay home, and as much as we can stay home, as much as we can follow this lockdown properly, I think we can back to the business that quick. So government understand that, and government is trying to putting these directives to the required people, nations, throughout the nations. And I think the doctors are the frontline people, and recently the police, the polices in Bangladesh has done great job, but still there are a lot of police now. We can see the last 2-3 days they are also getting positive for this coronavirus. So I have to thank everyone who are the frontline fighters, like doctors and law enforcement people. And for the businesses, I would say there are some businesses like we have in IT, publishing, or other businesses. They can go 2 or 3 months off, as I understand, but not more than 3 months. After 3 months, I cannot even imagine, as an owner of a business house, it's really impossible to think that after 3 months or within 90 days, you cannot come back to business. If it happens, then of course we have to face, we have to take different strategy. We have to face different situation to handle that upcoming. I think the crisis will be very hard, and we have everyone have to fight actually together, and we are doing it under the good leadership of Sheikh Hasina. And Mr. Rajat, as you said, that you have connections, all the big business people in Bangladesh, I know that too. And you see, everyone has taken good initiatives to put their efforts in making hospitals, giving their spaces for the 5,000 beds, 2,000 beds like this. And it is going very well, publicly accepted, and public is very much appreciating all the business houses engagement who are coming forward to actually help the government. So I think this is very positive. We have, in spite of being in all the negative situation that coronavirus has created, and we learned the new way of living, of course. And as Dr. Ravishankar says that like he had an innovation, so that he was trying to put in the line. So same thing happened in our publishing industry as well, and in all industries, everyone was trying to put the digital practices in the office and everywhere. But it was not working that much good, because we were trying to do something in 3 months, it was taking like 3 years. But only positive thing of this pandemic, as I see, for the business houses, they know who are their assets, and who actually can cope up with the new upcoming changes, technologies, trends. And it is very much required, because we just 3 months before we were thinking, oh, I have to go to Singapore, I have a meeting, and I have to come back after 2 days in Bangladesh because we have a lot of works. But now you see, we are sitting in home, as I am sitting in UK and running business in Bangladesh. Same, I cannot go outside of my home. So this is a crazy situation, but for my employees as well, they are also working from home. So this is the new way of totally doing office, and everyone has to actually adjust with this situation. And I think this is a very positive change for the whole world, and it will help to make less impact on the environment, which were thinking like global warming, the very big concern it was before the virus. The most big issue was global warming. So now you see, people know already that what they need, how much they need, and I think this will impact. I hope that this will remain in people's mind after this effect, and like people in Bangladesh, they will also actually understand that what a humanitarian ground, everyone is coming towards to help the other peoples, those who are working for day to day. And I would say this actually opens another positive side of the people, that helping the people who is beside you, and government is trying to help all the needy people through their incentive program, and all the business, those who have thousands of employees, and government is taking initiative and trying not to put them on layoff. So I think that's how we are progressing, and it will work. I hope it will work very well. Comparative to the situation, there are no judgment for the government right now. We don't want to judge, but all I want that we should help the government everywhere, not in even Bangladesh, in India, in Singapore, Dubai, or whatever countries. Everyone should help the government to rebuild their country and come back to their previous situation with the less carbon footprint, with the more digital way of living, and with the more impact to the doing more from home, doing less from work. And we were taking a lot of pressures. And another side I want to mention, this is my personally, I just think even if you are not affected by this coronavirus, after this situation, everybody will have kind of hypertension problem. So this is very important to maintain our mental health, because if you are not affected by coronavirus, you are affected mentally for sure. You have to understand that. You are not seeing your mother, father, you are not seeing your elder people, you are not seeing your cousins, brother, and you just calling them. So it can help to come back on your foot to the regular daily routine if you maintain the practice right now. Like every day what you do, everybody must have a routine, and they should do the office 2 hours or 3 hours, they should read books, they should go back to normal activities. But I see a lot of people are putting in social media, like a lot of time now, only sleeping and resting, but they cannot do many things. They cannot do many things in a day because they have a lot of time. And now the situation is like the clock is working, but we are sitting idle. So with the clock, we have to reschedule our days and do the things like this webinar. We started at 12 or 12:30. So it is very early for those days, because now everybody is starting the day like in 12. So it is like 8 mornings at 4 o'clock until the midnight. Everybody is talking like, what is the situation? It is extra talking. So we should stop that kind of thing. We should talk less about corona. We should talk more about positive sides of it. Because if you are affected, you are affected. But if you are mentally good and you have herd immunity, you can come back from this situation even if you are affected. I believe so. So you should maintain all the healthy procedures, and you should not go to the vet. Nobody should go to the hospital.
Phenomenal inputs. Many such phenomenal inputs by you. And again, I like to say that I'm a big follower of Sheikh Hasina, and we're also going to put her on the cover of one of our forthcoming issues. And all these webinars also will go in as a story, as inputs by the various entrepreneurs, various leaders from diverse industries, and how their concepts and what you also talked about right now. And at this stage, I'd also like to bring in Dr. Ravishankar again. Dr. Ravishankar, you're with us?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yes. And Dr. Ravishankar, 2 points I'll take out from Mehedi Hasan's discussion also. That the future, it says, is, the testing kits and the vaccine. And, just yesterday, someone told me that Emirates Airlines, did a test flight to Tunisia, from Dubai to Tunisia, and they're using a kit at the airport which gives out the result in 20 minutes. So everyone, there were about 230 people on the flight who were first given the test, and then they were allowed to board. And similarly, this is how airlines are going to start off, with these testing kits being available at the airports. So whether you're traveling outside or coming back in, you'll be you'll have to be part of the test. Now, I would request your inputs on what is happening currently in India with respect to the testing kits, and when do you feel the vaccine should be out? Because we all know Corona is going to be part of life sooner or later.
Yeah, see, we are. I didn't. Rajat, you're off. Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is, and I definitely would agree that Corona is here to stay with us for a longer time than we are anticipating, because of its mutative nature. It is mutating so much that it is changing its mask face every now and then. So, you'll be astonished to know, I don't want to scare anyone, but I have a remedy. That's why I'm just talking about the facts openly. It has mutated over 1,700 times in the last 6 months. And it has created about 80 different types of coronavirus. 80 different types. So, your test the sensitivity of the test will not go beyond 90%. That's the best test that we have. The test kit with the best result is 90%, which means out of every 10 people, you're missing one person. On a scale of, say, India has done about more than 400,000 tests. And here, yes, we are doing tests as and when it is necessary, as and when we suspect, because, you just think about the size of the population we have, and then the testing kits are so less, and then it takes time for us to actually import these tests as well. But of course, we have developed our own indigenous test kits as well. In spite of that, it's really practically impossible to test everyone, and so we are actually testing those in which those who suspect or those who have those symptoms. So the symptoms are the ministry has done a great job in giving this awareness of the symptoms of the infection. So the people who suspect infection go and voluntarily test. So that's how we have done 400,000 tests, a little over 400,000 tests. But as I said, you're missing one person. That's the best. There are different types of tests now. There's something called PCR testing. That's more accurate. But still, that gives only 90% of sensitivity. We are missing, out of every 100, we're missing 10 people. So that's point number one. And the other testing that we're testing antibodies, that's only 75% specific. So which means out of 100 people, out of every 4, we're leaving 1. So that is why this is another reason for us to add this corona situation. This is going to be extended for a longer period of time, which means we're going to deal with this, for the next, at least, from my side, what I'm anticipating, we're going to deal with this at least for the next 3 to 5 years. But it is not as scary as it looks, because, the mortality, given that the virus is extremely contagious, so that's the bad part, as compared to SARS or the SARS-1. This is called the SARS-2, the SARS-1 in 2003, the H1N1, the MERS. They were not as contagious as the SARS-2 is, but this has lesser mortality than the earlier ones. So but as long as we maintain, these social distancing. Okay, I would actually rephrase it. Instead of social distancing, we should have physical distancing in place and social connectivity in place. That's what we are doing right now. That is a new innovation. Social distancing would alienate us from everyone, and so it's going to be imperative for people across the world to have physical distancing, and that's going to be the norm. So we're going to maintain that 1 meter to 3 meters, because some studies have shown that the virus is airborne, and then you should have a distance of at least 27 feet. It can literally go as far once it is airborne. So these norms will become norm. They'll become normal standards for our living. And then, it reminds me of our ancient traditions, actually, all the Eastern cultures tradition, like, when you go out, when you come back, you wash your hand, wash your feet, wash your face, if possible, take a shower. That is going to be the general principles of hygiene that were actually being followed in our countries, I'm talking about the entire Eastern countries, are going to be the norm now, because this culture, see, while we somehow, have been not trashing completely, but then some traditions and some cultural aspects were set aside, were kept aside, thinking them to be too superstitious, are actually taking their original place now. That's what is my observation, as a scientist now. So physical distancing is the norm. You maintain that personal sense of hygiene, and then wash as frequently as possible. These are going to be the norms now. So while I said testing definitely has to be done, but in a country like India or even Bangladesh, most of the southeastern countries, it's going to be a logistics nightmare to test everyone. So I would say that awareness about the disease has to be widespread, and that's what our governments are really effective in doing. I'm sure that everyone in India knows the symptoms of this new form of viral infection, COVID-19. So that's one very important thing that we should know, that apart from testing, we should know the signs and symptoms of this particular disease. That's number one. Number two, because of its mutative nature, I suspect vaccine. I'm just thinking loud. Your vaccine will not come in the next 18 to 24 months, because you build a vaccine against something that the structure that If it continuously changing its structure, it's very difficult to build a vaccine. So the only way is to build your own immunity, and building your own immunity is as I started off with this talk, that I figured out that this immune system is like it percolates all over the body. And once the immune system is strong, and in all of the Eastern culture, see, look at the Chinese culture. There's something called Shi, Gu, and Qin. In the Arabian culture, Arabic medicine, there's something called Kapha, Shafra, Balgam. And in Ayurveda, we call it as the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And these three agents have to be brought into a certain balance. So detecting these imbalances and setting these balances right will lead to stronger immunity. Not every formulation that is out in the market or out being propagated by everyone will not act at the same level, act similarly in all individuals. So this is something that we only from our company are able to contribute. So we're building this app and then giving this out very soon to market, so that everyone gets benefit of this. So this is going to be, you have to see, we already have a knack of living with microbes. Did you guys know that our body is composed of about 10 trillion human cells? 10 trillion. That's about 10 lakh crores in Indian language. 10 trillion cells are human, but 90 trillion cells are bacteria. And we are more bacteria than human beings, actually. And how is this possible? It's possible because of the immune system. The immune system in our bodies has mastered the art of symbiosis, living together. Sahajivan, matlab jo bolte hain Hindi mein. So this act of symbiosis or living together is mastered by the immune system. So if the same thing is applied in corona situation, we will win. Otherwise, I don't see we are going to win this war by our conventional modern methods. I'm not against anything modern medicine. No, I'm a cardiac surgeon myself. But then I see, because of its extremely mutative nature, this virus is forcing us to think out of the box. And so most of the aspects, you have to think out of the box. You have to come up with a stronger immune system in the real sense. So every ginger tea might not help everyone. So in general, of course there is a certain standard formulation that I give recipe that I plan to give everyone, but that's not how the immune system functions. Everyone is different. So you need a different or a personalized approach to each and everyone. That's where our research actually comes into play, where we will be able to accurately, help each and everyone with personalized regimen. So that's about how you need to fight this COVID-19 in my perspective. So testing, as you said, is definitely important. We're doing enough tests, and though your isolation. Say another important startling example of this patient who got infected in Bavaria, in Munich. You know what? How he got infected the first one? I mean, how he transmitted? They were like, he just passed on in a restaurant a glass from his table to a guy at the back. That's the virus he transmitted to another person. It's like, it's practically impossible, like literally, maintaining that level of, I completely agree with Mehedi Hasan ji for having put this forth. Completely physical distancing is not, is going to be detrimental for the economies across the world. While while health is utmost concern, we have to bring in this concept of personal hygiene and physical distancing while we are going to work together. So working together is symbiosis is another important lesson that we should learn, that we should master, so that we are able to win this virus, because this virus is actually getting into your body and changing its face every now and then. The latest mutation has occurred about 3-4 weeks ago, and then that has given the virus the capability to produce coagulation syndromes, your blood clots. Patients are presenting with new features. Another mutation that they came, and initially when this virus was out with the then available literature, we knew that the virus cannot stay beyond 27 degrees centigrade. We all heard about it, right? That the virus is thermolabile, which means beyond 27 degrees centigrade of temperature, this virus cannot live. Now, after a new mutation, 2 weeks ago, French scientists conducted this experiment. Usually when we are taught microbiology, we were taught that when you boil water at 60 degrees centigrade for about 60 minutes, all bacteria and viruses die. But this virus doesn't die now. It has changed itself. It has become a little more thermostable. So anticipating that summer would heal this virus, I don't think so. I know I'm coming both from genomic aspects but also Ayurvedic aspects. I figured out that this virus is causing a disease which is actually aggravating Vata and Pitta in the body. So you need to appropriately, fine tune the treatment protocols as well. So it's like this virus is continuously changing. So what we have to do is what we already know. In our body, we already are living with about 90 trillion bacteria. So we need to master this technique with COVID-19 as well. So there are other lessons to be learned too, through in this entire episode of Corona, this. At some point of time, we need to be satisfied with we need to flatten the curve of our desires. Apart from flattening the curve of viral infection, of COVID infection, we need to flatten the...
Dr. Polishetty, I must say, Rajat sir, we probably will be needing a whole new series, rather, to really speak to Dr. Polishetty at length, because the kind of information that he shared on this platform, simply I'm sure that our viewers would have loved it, because there was so much that I didn't know about the new mutations that are, taking place every 2 weeks. The way I think it is really, developing a resistance. When you said about the thermostat, and when you said, summers could see a decrease in the virus, which probably would not be the case now. So that's amazing, the insight that you shared with us.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow, this is really amazing. So Rajat sir, I'd like to bring you back. There's so much that we've heard from Dr. Polishetty, and we really want him back on this. But just want to intervene here, and
sure,
we do have a lot of questions also here with us, and I'd like to ask you in particular, since today our session is on the brands. We actually live in a world which has millions of brands, and so these brands do have various logos, they have various symbols. And while you have worked in different parts of Asia, what according to you are three different or important things that one needs to keep in mind while you're really coming up with a logo, or we're coming up with a symbol?
If you're asking me, I would say...
Asking Rajat sir.
Oh, Rajat sir, please, yes, sure.
No, Dr. Ravishankar, after you, please.
No, take it. I'll wait for you. Please. You
No,
are the
please,
leaders
please.
in brand.
No, please, your perspective on this.
What I'm thinking is, first you need to have that uh, being truthful to your own self. If your brand represents what you really feel in the heart, what you really think in your, you should be in sync. Your heart should be in sync with the mind should be with the words, and words with the action. And then when you put all these three components together and then build the brand, that will speak out. Speak out and then communicate the message. That's number one. Number two is, like, as I just really mentioned right now, are you able to adapt to this new sudden tsunami are you in sync with the pandemic that is coming in? How quickly can you adapt to this new environment, or any new environment for that matter? How is something that should be communicated through the brand, and how innovative you are. Do you have AI and ML built into your say ERP, or into your communications, and or into your interaction with your customers? Also, these three components should be reflecting in the brand. When you do that, your brand will sell. It's not just about selling, it's about adding value to people. Will you be able to give the same value that you were able to give say 3 months earlier before this lockdown? It's something that we need to ask. And will you be able to excel, is something that we need to these 5 components should be properly communicated to people. If your logo does that, then you're in business. That's what I truly believe.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Rajat sir, your views on this?
Okay. Thank you, Sangeeta. Sangeeta, I'd like to break this, question into, 2 parts. One is, when brands were merely symbols, and brands and symbols were mainly created to create differentiation. There was a time when it was only because of that, and if you go in medieval times as well, the Hindu swastik, the swastik has many perceptions across the world, and
yes, it has a shared identity.
Correct. And it was mainly created to have a symbolic meaning, have a differentiation. And coming from those times, every religion has a symbol as well. And it mainly meant that people would want to show that they are part of this culture or this tradition or this particular section, and has transformed so much over the years to now when we talk about branding and we talk about symbols, it's more about corporate, or it's more about speaking to larger audiences. And I feel this transition has happened because consumer behavior has been changing, and with consumer behavior changing, the entire, I would say, the equation behind creating a brand or creating a symbol to speak to so many large audiences has to keep on changing. And when I say that, I merely mean that for example, again, brands which have been there for so much longer. So, brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi have a perception, they're symbolic, right? When I now come and I talk about brands which have so many competitors, for example, if you and me try and answer this question that, which is the best school in India, it's again no brand or no symbol that really comes to your mind, because again, the competition is so high. The parameters for actually connecting to a specific brand are so high. So this transformation has been there, and it's related to industries as well. And when I talk about media as well, I'll talk about AsiaOne as a brand. AsiaOne, and why the name and the symbol was because we actually wanted to create a pan-Asia business publication that reached out to about 10-11 countries and had one issue that would reach out and basically connect with the audience in multiple countries. And that is why we also use a tag which is called the Only Pan Asia Business and News Magazine, because some of our friends, the Forbes and the Fortune, have come out with country specific issues. There's not really one issue that caters to 8-10 markets, and that was really the reason to choose, I would say, the brand or the name AsiaOne, and even the symbols that we use with it. And business, like many industries, in India itself, there are over 3,500 news agencies, which have been given out licenses. I'm including newspaper, magazine, television, etc. So, brands and symbols at that same time are very, very important. But what is the brand promise, or what is the brand audience you're catering to, is extremely important. And as the brand involvement goes higher, the symbol and the brand communication is very, very important. That's why you see some of these are extremely there's a lot of research that goes into what kind of symbol they're using, what kind of reach they have, and etc. So more the involvement in the brand, and I think as the competition and the consumer behavior change, these symbols, these brands are extremely important. From those times which are mainly just to differentiate from now, what is the brand promise and what is the audience you're catering to? That's extremely important.
I'm saying it's more of an identity that you put forth to your people, to your audience, and to your catered.
Absolutely. So, it all goes behind identifying and then creating these symbols and brands.
And Rajat sir, do you think this pandemic is actually going to change how branding is going to happen, and how people are going to perceive it? And is there going to be a real transformation? Do you think it's going to have an effect?
See, I think too early to comment on that. I would like to say this phase is temporary. That's what I believe. And brands and communication are all created for a long-term vision.
Right.
So I think it's too early to comment on that. Let's see. Though COVID-19 again, as early as this, has its own symbol. With that globe and those those viruses coming out. So it is everything that happens is becoming symbolic and has its own brand. But I think it's a little too early. Let's see how.
I guess these hashtags
because
are
again,
Rajat sir, even these hashtags when you talk about like India fights Corona, the hashtag, or world fights Corona, or hashtag. So I think, earlier from the corporations, when it was pushed down to now it was pushed up from people, also kind of identifying with certain symbols, or maybe just for a matter of fact today, hashtag India fights Corona or the world fight Corona. It's actually a symbol which people are identifying or kind of taking it forward or putting, associating themselves with.
You're absolutely right. In fact, now general public has its own brands and symbols. Like the Me Too or the hashtags you're talking about.
Right.
The public is creating its own symbols, and that is a transition again that we are all seeing.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's very important. And honestly, I always say this, that management and branding books, all of us that we've studied, were mainly written by American and European authors. And this transition, let's see how it takes place, and which are the new benchmarks in books that come out post COVID-19. Let's see.
Thank you, Rajat sir. And of course, I'm going to be taking my last question. I'm going to bring on Mehedi Hasan once again, sir. Very much in brief, just another question for you before we close this session. As a conglomerate, how do you think a brand and its voice can prepare a better functional society that is more sustainable in its approach?
I didn't get the question again.
I'm saying, as a conglomerate, how do you think a brand and its voice can prepare the society, the functional society, to be more sustainable in its approach?
Okay, so as you see, the consumption pattern drastically changed, and I can say that there are some businesses and brands like who are related in basic commodities. Businesses saw hyper demand in these early days of this lockdown, and associated impulse sales have absolutely collapsed. And we can say the supply chain is going to be one uncertain one. Like people can predict, like supply chain should be like this after 3 months, something. But we don't actually. We are not 100% sure of this, as the virus is, as the Dr. Ravishankar says, the virus is really mutating every time. So we have to cope up. All the brands, the big brands, those who are doing business in different sectors, they should have their consumers, their inside stakeholders, and their employees in line with the strategies. And almost all government around the world, though they are announcing bailout packages and safety net programs, nobody wants the economies to be slowed down to the point where it is impossible to recover. So it's very important, like brands like Audi, BMW, and a lot of brands that, especially in Bangladesh, all of my friends, those who owns the representing these brands in Bangladesh, and other luxury brands, they all are communicating, and all the brands are communicating to their customers that it is not the time for communicating the customer for selling or other things, but rather you should spread the awareness. But you see, without the sale, without the business, the brands cannot actually sustain. That's for sure. And of course, it is very uncertain that when it will be ending, when the situation will come back to the previous situation. So the big brands, they are also some of the brands I see. I just was Googling yesterday that how the brands are doing with their employer brand. Like there are some employer brands, like those who are doing the tobacco business in Bangladesh, BAT. They are called one of the big employer brands. So right now, what they will look at, because you know that smoking is also one of the main causes like that hampers the immunity. So there are a lot of awareness going on against it. And these kind of businesses, even these businesses pay one of the big taxes in countries. In all countries, they pay the big taxes. But after all, they have to. They may also think about worldwide. They may also think about cut down, like the airlines have cut down their staffs. So brands also may need to firing its staff. The consequence that more people will lose their means of livelihoods, resulting in zero purchasing power, meaning lower the demand of, meaning lesser sales, and causing shrinking the businesses. And this cycle will continue until it consumes itself. You know, the cycle is going on: less consume, less business, and then less revenue, and then less fund to back up the company, its operation. So therefore, it's very vital that every business retains its staff. They should try to retain its staff. It's not everything on the government. It's also the social responsibility. I'm talking about the business responsibility, brands responsibility. Because the brands, how they are built up in your house first, in your employees first. Then it goes out. Then your mission and vision is transmitted to the consumers, to your customers. So if your employees can actually spread the good side of your company, because all the time you see the Richard Branson says, first you should empower your employees more than the other people. So right now I will say a lot of people are in corporate sector, and they are getting handsome salaries in India, Bangladesh. We were doing very much fine, but in third world countries. They are also in Singapore, though it's not situated in third world country, but it's a very first world country like Switzerland. And also these businesses may need to cut down their jobs, and the brands to reassure its customer, the external and internal, what I'm talking about, that things may work differently, but they will continue to make progress. And brands should continue, rather increase their marketing budgets. I would say they change their messages to one of the solidarity and support, and brands that will reach out and come forward will create stories of compassion to share with the customers and communities. Brand can use this time, this lockdown period, to tell their customers their stories, how they are coping up the situation, how they are spreading the happiness, positivity, stories of initiatives it is taking to take on the challenge, its teams and customers, stories of the frontline fighters. Everybody is thanking now. Like in UK, you see they are doing the clapping. In India, they have done. The whole country has done something. Deepavali type, the lighting in a moment. So this is the heroes for the heroes. So all the brands, big brands, also doing right now. I think they should do right now to encourage the frontline fighters, because as much as you can back them up with their mind, with their strong mind, because nobody should leave the wire field. It's not like a front wire, like
and you from very beginning of this panel discussion have been maintaining this, that a right kind of a body and mind balance is very well needed, because we may be able to physically escape the corona, but are we able to escape the repercussions of corona mentally? So that is very well said, and fans need to rewrite those amazing, compassionate stories. That's very, very beautifully put forth. Thank you, Ms. Mehedi Hasan. Thank you so much. And Dr. Polishetty, we have one question for you, and everybody really wants to know. You've been talking about the three constituents. We've been talking about the Kapha Vata Pitta. So right. Yes, just one remedy very quickly before we close the session. That how do you think we can strike the right balance? In very brief, one remedy that goes out to everybody, and I'm sure there's no formula that that one formula.
Yeah, that can work for everyone.
Still one, yeah.
So I cannot fit into one remedy, but there are certain. In less than a minute, I can tell a set of programs that an individual can get indulged and then get benefited.
Sure.
So there's one tea that I usually prescribe. After researching a lot, I came up with this formulation. Take about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, half teaspoon of turmeric, 1 full teaspoon of ginger, add it to about 200 ml of milk, 6% milk or higher percentage of fat, and then boil it for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then allow it to settle down for a while, and then add honey according to taste, and have it at least 3-4 times a day. That really helps. Literally, this can be universally be done for everyone to prevent this, like a universal immunobooster kind of a thing. And then I would prescribe those people who cannot do this, just get some guava leaves, 10 leaves, boil them in water, and then have that decoction every now and then. One important thing that I would say is, because this the important problem with this virus is that it is competitively binding with the hemoglobin in the body, and that is why we are not able to, people who report, who come to the clinics, are actually either complain with shortness of breath or asphyxiated. They're not able to breathe well. Why? Because the hemoglobin inside the blood, inside the RBC, is not able to bind to oxygen, because hemoglobin is already competitively bound to virus. So while there are certain remedies that I just mentioned that would prevent the entry, and then including, there is something called oil pulling, and also, putting drops of ghee into both the nostrils, that will, create an oil layer inside the passages that will prevent the entry. This exercise that I'm going to mention is like going to help if by chance the virus gains entry into your body. The problem is that virus is binding with the hemoglobin. Thereby, people are suffering from shortness of breath, which means the oxygen blood concentration is going down. Usually it should be around 100. It goes down to 92 to 93%. And when it goes as low, people end up with shortness of breath. And when it goes below 85, 82, then, it unfortunately leads to death. One important exercise that I found through my research is really good, that I usually prescribe in my clinic to everyone, is a Surya Namaskar. It's or any yogasana or any exercise that stretches your muscles. Stretches are very important. Why? Why I prescribe Surya Namaskar is because in this particular Surya Namaskar, all the 545 muscles are stretched. So what happens when you stretch the muscles? There's something called stretch receptors that get activated. When they get activated, there is a process after a 7-step reaction. There is a process that gets initiated inside the body, which is called as ischemic preconditioning. What it does is it conditions, it adapts your body to low concentrations, to working effectively and optimally in spite of low blood or oxygen concentrations. In our experiments, we saw that when you subject these experimental animals to stretch for a certain period of time, a little over 45 seconds, and then let this ischemic precondition get triggered, the animals were able to bear oxygen concentrations as low as 35%. So this is one very, very important thing, as I mentioned, that we have to, I mean, we've been living with viruses, and we might have to live with this corona, the second version of the SARS, which is COVID-19. While we do this, the most effective remedy would be stretches. Surya Namaskars is what I prescribe. 5 sets of them that will help you cope up with low molecules of, low concentrations of oxygen and still optimally function. Thank you very much for asking that.
Thank you, Dr. Polishetty. Thank you so much. Oh my God. So friends, there's so much to take from this session of make sure you're doing that muscle stretches. The Surya Namaskar is the way forward. And Doctor, I'm safe because I think I've been doing this and I'm only
then that's good. Yeah,
everybody is doing that.
Right.
And follow all the physical distancing, like Mehedi Hasan sir said that yes, your mind and your body balance is very important.
Sure.
It is amazing. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular session. We promise you to bring more from this table. Till then, big thank you to all our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us here. Thank you for sharing that in-depth knowledge with us. It was really great to have all of you here with your learnings, with your thoughts.
Yeah, Ms. Sangeeta, sorry, 1 second. There's one participant who raised his hand, Mr. Venkat Reddy. I'm just looking at the participants. If there was any question. He's raised his hand. We don't know. He hasn't posted his question. There are two, Ivan John, Mr. Venkat Reddy, and
the question is for you, Ravi sir, that how are you using the ancient medicinal knowledge from Ayurveda and the likes in designing new ways of medical treatments using AI and ML? I think we heard him during his entire discussion, but sir, let's hear it once again from you.
So what we did was, see, from the ancient knowledge, I just mentioned in all of the 3 systems, Chinese system, the Avicenna medical system, and the Indian medical system, there are 3 agents that needs to be set in a balance, the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So what I have done is, I first quantified Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I found, in the last 18 years of medicine, I came up with more than 3,000 markers for quantifying Vata, Pitta, Kapha. No one Ayurvedic doctor does this today, because most of the Ayurvedic people are actually practicing herbal allopathy. They're trying to arrive at a remedy for a disease, which is not right. It won't work. The body doesn't work that way. That is why we're not able to conquer a disease. You have to set your balance irrespective of any disease, then all diseases will vanish. That's the primary philosophy here. Primary uniqueness of this ancient science. So what I did was, I created animal models of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, measured all that is possible, that is measurable, and then came up with quantification of these 3 doshas in different organs. And once you have these quantifiable parameters and correlations, what I did was, I used artificial intelligence protocols and machine learning. I built an entire machine learning platform to be able to quantify these independent agents in each of the 42 organs. And then what I do, using AI and ML protocols, the algorithm automatically picks up those foods that are good for an individual at that particular point of time, and those exercise regimen that are good for that particular individual at that particular point of time, keeping in view of his VPK, which is called the Vata Pitta Kapha fingerprint. So that is where AI and ML protocols actually, find my way into, connecting these two signs. Because, say, for example, I'll just take one more minute because this needs a little bit of explanation. So, say, you must have seen so many people died on the treadmill, working out. People who are like who had been habituated doing this workout died on the treadmill, and there is one famous yoga guru in Karnataka who died while performing yoga. I don't want to take name, but it's already known. Vishweshwar Biradari. He died while doing a yogasana. So, which means your yogasans, not all yogasans are good for an individual at a particular point of time. Because yoga somehow uchate. You have to bring about a balance using yoga. And how do you do that? By identifying these imbalances. What is balance is something that has to be quantified. And by using this, by you applying the knowledge that is, the parameters generated from my research, I'm able to quantify this VPK and then map foods and map exercises, including pranayams, including yogasans, including physical fitness regimen and herbal regimen to bring about a VPK balance. Another example is omega-3 fatty acids. People think that omega-3 fatty acids are across the spectrum good for everyone. No, I'm sorry, it is not right. Omega-3 fatty acids could lead to a heart attack in Vata-dominated individuals. This is what I proved in our experiments when we conducted these experiments in the Moscow State University in Russia. We created models of Vata in experimental animals and fed these rats with omega-3 fatty acids. On the day 72, all the rats died between 72 and 78 days. All the rats died of heart attack. Omega-3 fatty acids were actually supposed to be protecting your heart. Why did they lead to heart attack? It's because not every chemical or every nutraceutical is actually neutral. You have to customize everything based on your Vata Pitta fingerprint, Kapha fingerprint, and that is what my algorithm does. That is where I connected AI and ML, and then it's a long algorithm. Who asked this question? Mr. Ivan, right? Yeah. So this is not as straightforward. So that's why this AI and ML protocols developed by us will actually help people, choose the right food at that particular at a particular point of time. Choose the right exercise and right breathing exercise, including even your Bhastrika. If you do it randomly, might hurt you. Your Anulom Vilom. What is the proportion of Anulom Vilom? How many anuloms to viloms on that particular day at that particular point of time depends on your Vata Pitta Kapha fingerprint. By being able to quantify this VPK fingerprint, I'm able to give appropriate algorithms. It also gives the world's first device that is going to give your blood biochemistry also non-invasive with the help of these mathematical algorithms that I built. So that's where we're bringing in AI and ML and this innovative way of dealing with yourself and bringing about a balance in these critical times and in general, even many times.
And so our attendees here are also, requesting if you could share your LinkedIn link, for them to ask any further questions.
Oh, certainly.
We're not able to take all the questions here.
I know.
So, yeah, if you could just tell us your LinkedIn and
all right, okay.
or your email ID that you could share.
Just search for Dr. Ravish. I'll just.
So friends, we can have, I'm sure we can have more questions to him through his email and LinkedIn links. Thank you. This has really been a great knowledge sharing from you. Thank you so much for adding so much of value. And now we know so much about our own bodies and how do we deal with it and what's the right way. So one particular common way wherein you can understand that, what is your dosha of your body. As a lay person, how do you realize that, what is your dosha of your body? Is it kapha, it is vata, etc.?
It's not again as straightforward as you asked, because this dosha dominance is just one aspect, but in Ayurveda, what you have to actually identify is the Vata, Pitta, Kapha proportions in each of the 42 organs. So how do you do that? You do a traditional Nadi Pariksha. You use 3 fingers, put them on your artery, and then press it in 7 different levels. Apply differential pressures, because each level, 7 equally differential pressures. You end up with identifying 7 different layers of the artery that correspond to 7 different dhatus in Ayurveda. Sapta dhatus, they are called as 7 tissues. So each tissue level, you have 3 fingers and you have 3 different points, which means 7 into 3 is you identify 21 organs on one hand and 21 on the other. That's how you arrive at 42 organs. And there are pulse characteristics for Vata, pulse characteristics for Pitta, and pulse characteristics for Kapha. Depending on how much of the pulse matches with Vata or Pitta or Kapha, gives you a proportion of Vata, Pitta, Kapha in individual organs. That's how we diagnose. So for this, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult task, very difficult skill. But it is a skill, and everyone can master it. So that's why I built an entire algorithm using AI and LLM and Fourier transform. People who are well-versed with signal processing would understand what I'm saying. That I created models of Vata, Pitta, Kapha and their subtypes in different animal models, and correlated that with heart rate variability. And through that algorithm, I found new frequency domains to map Vata, Pitta, Kapha and their subtypes in different organs, and build this algorithm. So this is a very advanced algorithm, and the world is yet to see. And I see that this is the time then when I'll have a chance to show it people live. I've been doing this for the past 2 years. Now we are going to go all out to get this across, because everyone needs to know in what state they are,
Right.
what kind of VPK dosha, VPK proportions they have in individual organs, and then choose the right food for that particular point of time. Your right food need not be raw food, because Vata individuals their Vata will get aggravated if they have raw food. So you cannot have raw food and say you're eating healthy. No.
Healthy. Wow.
So it's a very, very...
And all this while we thought just having some salads is going to do a magic for us.
No, that is not right always. Sometimes, some of my patients, they come to me with very high levels of blood sugars. I tell them, guy, when I check the Nadi, I tell them, with my device, again, I have this device and I use that also in my clinic, in my hospital. I tell them, see guys, you have too much of Vata in your brain, and Vata makes the tissues hyperexcitable, and hence you need more glucose. So don't worry, your glucose are normal for you. And this is true, because this is like a retrospective analysis which was done by the American Diabetes, American College of Physicians. They did a retrospective analysis of about 92,000 patients who were diagnosed as diabetes. And you know what they found? 42% of them, which means about 38,000 patients, ended up with new forms of senile dementia, new forms of Parkinsonism, and new forms of heart failure while, in the course of the last 15 years. So when they tried to, analyze these patients, they brought thousands of these patients back into their clinic. And they, what they did? When we do a research, we kind of cut off all the medication. We pass these patients through a certain process called as washout period. For 1 month, we stop all the medicines, and then we wait until the medicine is washed out, and then see what is happening. You know what? When these doctors from ACP, American College of Physicians, did this experiment, those people who came with senile dementia and diabetes, after they stopped the medications, the blood sugar shot up to 250 to 300, anywhere between that, but they slowly started regaining their memory. People who had Parkinsonism, who developed Parkinsonism during the course of the treatment, slowly started regaining control on their body part. Parkinsonism is uncontrolled, involuntary movement of the hands. Some people, have this, end up with this involuntary movement. It stopped. After 3 months, they completely got cured of these senile dementias, Parkinsonisms, amnesias that were a part and parcel of their life, just by allowing the blood glucose to spike up anywhere between 220 to 250. So that's why American College of Physicians today said that your blood glucose is good enough even if you're, I mean, they set a new norm for HbA1c. They say 7.5 is good enough.
Thank you.
While
Thank
we
you.
are, sorry, I mean, it's again a big
There are so many questions that are coming your way in terms of what food, and how I wish I could take them all, but we'd love you share your email and people can connect with you, because everyone's been wanting to ask so much about the food you eat or about the dairy products that you consume. So yes.
Right. Definitely, yeah.
So thank you everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here. A big thank you to all our panelists, and I hope our this particular topic, how symbols and brands shape out humanity. More to it, I think there was so much more in terms of the right body and mind balance we could figure out from this particular session of ours. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to all our attendees. Thank you so much, and please watch out on the stage till we bring you the next series. We have Rajat saying something.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Rajat.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hosting me. Thank you, everybody. All the best and stay safe, please.
Stay home, stay safe.
Stay home, stay safe.